My name is Daniel Brooks, and 3 years ago, I bought my first home in a quiet, manicured neighborhood outside Charlotte, North Carolina. The streets were lined with identical mailboxes, the lawns trimmed to an almost unnatural perfection, and every house seemed to whisper the same unspoken rule: conform or be punished. I didn't know it yet, but I had just signed away a piece of my freedom to something far more powerful than I ever imagined. A homeowners association that would soon become the central villain of my life. The neighborhood was called Brookhaven Estates, and on paper it looked like the American dream. White picket fences, manicured hedges, a community pool that sparkled under the Carolina sun. My wife Sarah and I had saved for almost 6 years to afford the down payment. We had 2 kids, Emma, who was 7, and Jake, who was barely 4. And this house was supposed to be our forever home. The driveway was long, curved gently toward the garage, and gave us just enough space to park both our cars side by side. It was perfect, or so I thought. The first sign of trouble came 8 months after we moved in. A letter arrived in a thick cream envelope embossed with the HOA's golden crest. A ridiculous logo for a homeowners association, if you ask me, like they were running a kingdom instead of a subdivision. The letter complained about the color of our mailbox post. Apparently, I had painted it a shade of brown that was inconsistent with community aesthetic guidelines. I laughed it off, repainted the post, moved on with my life. But that letter was just the opening note of a symphony of harassment that would last for years. Next came complaints about our lawn being half an inch too tall. Then a notice about wind chimes being too loud, even though my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, had the exact same chimes and never received a single complaint. I started noticing a pattern. Every time I had any interaction with the HOA board, especially with its president, a man named Gregory Hutchins, things got worse, not better. Gregory was the kind of man who wore a blazer to a backyard barbecue, who corrected your grammar mid-sentence, and who seemed to derive genuine pleasure from making other people's lives difficult. The real war began on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember it vividly because Sarah had just left for work, the kids were at school, and I was sipping coffee on my porch when I noticed something strange at the end of my driveway. A truck, workers, and to my absolute horror, a massive concrete barrier being installed directly across the entrance to my driveway. I ran outside in my socks, coffee mug still in hand, screaming at the workers to stop. They told me they were just following orders from the HOA board. I called Gregory immediately. His voice was calm, almost amused, as he explained that my driveway technically encroached on a community easement that the board had just voted to enforce. A vote, I later discovered, that happened in a meeting I was never notified about, conveniently scheduled while Sarah and I were out of town visiting her parents in Ohio. I was trapped. My cars were stuck in the garage. My kid's school bus couldn't even pull up properly. And worse, Sarah was 8 months pregnant with our 3rd child, and the idea of an emergency requiring quick access to a vehicle sent ice through my veins. I tried reasoning with Gregory, but he simply smiled that smug little smile of his and said, "Rules are rules, Daniel. Maybe you should have read the HOA bylaws more carefully before buying this house." That night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the cream-colored HOA letters scattered in front of me, feeling a rage I hadn't felt since I was a teenager. But underneath the rage was something else, a spark of determination. I refused to be bullied by a group of suburban dictators who thought a clipboard and a community newsletter gave them the right to control my life. I didn't know it yet, but that very night, I would stumble upon a legal loophole that would turn this entire battle on its head. Something Gregory Hutchins and his band of self-appointed rule enforcers never saw coming. I opened my laptop and began searching frantically. HOA blocking driveway legal, illegal obstruction property access, emergency vehicle access laws, North Carolina, and then, buried in a forum post from a frustrated homeowner in Texas, I found it. A term I had never heard before, illegal obstruction of access. A legal classification that, if applied correctly, could not only force the HOA to remove the barrier, but expose them to serious legal and even criminal liability. I didn't sleep that night. By sunrise, I had already drafted an email to the county zoning department, the fire marshal's office, and a real estate attorney recommended by a friend. Little did I know, This single email would set off a chain of events that would not only humiliate Gregory Hutchins in front of the entire neighborhood, but expose a decade of corruption within the Brookhaven Estates HOA that no one had ever dared to investigate. The next morning, I drove to the county zoning office with a manila folder stuffed with photos of the concrete barrier, copies of my property deed, and the original HOA bylaws I had downloaded the night before. The woman at the front desk, a sharp-eyed clerk named Patricia Renner, listened patiently as I explained my situation. When I showed her the photos, her expression shifted from polite boredom to genuine concern. "This blocks emergency access to your home?" she asked. I nodded. She pulled out a thick binder and began flipping through pages of county code. "Mr. Brooks," she said slowly, "if this barrier prevents fire department or ambulance access to your property, this isn't just an HOA violation. This could be classified as illegal obstruction under County Code 14-22. That's a different ballgame entirely." I felt a surge of hope I hadn't felt in days. Patricia explained that under County Code, any structure, even one built by a private HOA, that blocked emergency vehicle access to a residential property could be deemed a hazard to public safety. If classified as such, the county could legally order the immediate removal of the barrier, fine the HOA, and in extreme cases, file obstruction charges against whoever authorized its construction. She handed me a stack of forms and told me to get a formal inspection request filed that same day. I left her office practically running to my car. My next stop was the fire marshal's office, where I met a tired but sympathetic inspector named Carl Whitfield. Carl had seen plenty of HOA disputes before, but when I showed him pictures of the concrete barrier completely sealing off my driveway, his jaw tightened. "This is a fire lane access violation," he said flatly. "If there's a fire in your house and we can't get a truck up your driveway, that's not just inconvenient. That's a death sentence waiting to happen." He scheduled an emergency inspection for the next morning and warned me that if the barrier truly violated access codes, the HOA could face fines starting at $5,000 per day until it was removed. That evening, Sarah came home from her doctor's appointment, exhausted and emotional, her belly heavy with our unborn daughter. When I told her what Patricia and Carl had said, she broke down crying. Not from sadness, but from sheer relief. "Finally," she whispered, "someone who actually listens." We sat together at the kitchen table, going through the HOA bylaws line by line, searching for any clause that might give Gregory legal cover for what he'd done. We found nothing. The community easement he mentioned didn't even exist in the official documents. It was a lie, fabricated entirely to justify blocking my driveway out of pure personal spite. The next morning, Carl Whitfield arrived with 2 other inspectors, measuring tape, and a clipboard full of code violations. Word spread through the neighborhood almost instantly. Homeowners peeking through blinds, some stepping onto their porches to watch. Within 20 minutes, Carl confirmed what I already suspected. My driveway was now completely inaccessible to any emergency vehicle, a direct violation of county fire code. He issued an official citation, with the HOA listed as the responsible party, and gave them 72 hours to remove the barrier or face escalating daily fines. I expected Gregory to panic. Instead, he showed up at my door that same afternoon, flanked by 2 other board members, wearing his usual smug expression, like a man who still believed he held all the cards. "This is a misunderstanding," he said coolly. "We'll have our attorney review the citation." I almost laughed in his face. "Your attorney can review it all he wants, Gregory," I said. "But you blocked emergency access to a home with a pregnant woman and 2 children inside. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a crime." His confidence cracked just slightly, a flicker of fear behind his eyes. But what neither of us knew yet was that this citation was just the beginning. Because buried within the HOA's own financial records I would soon gain access to through a county records request, was evidence of something far more sinister than a petty driveway dispute. Gregory Hutchins had been running Brookhaven Estates like his own personal kingdom for nearly a decade, and the concrete barrier blocking my driveway was about to become the crack that brought his entire empire crashing down. That night, as I lay in bed unable to sleep, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was brief, almost impossible to believe at first. "You don't know what you just started. Be careful, Daniel. People who dig too deep into Gregory's business have regretted it. My hands trembled as I read it again. Someone, somewhere in that quiet, perfect neighborhood, wanted me to stop digging. But all that message did was confirm what I already suspected. There was something much bigger hiding beneath Brookhaven Estate's picture-perfect surface, and I had just become the one person determined to expose it. The anonymous message should have scared me into backing down. Instead, it lit a fire in me that even Sarah hadn't seen before. The next morning, I filed a formal public records request with the county, demanding access to Brookhaven Estate's HOA's financial statements, board meeting minutes, and any documentation related to the so-called community easement Gregory had used to justify blocking my driveway. North Carolina law, I'd learned from the attorney I hired, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Rebecca Lynn, required HOAs to make these records available to homeowners upon request. Gregory, predictably, tried to stall, claiming the records were being reorganized and wouldn't be available for at least 30 days. Rebecca sent a single email citing the exact statute that required disclosure within 10 business days, threatening legal action for noncompliance. 3 days later, a thick envelope of documents landed on our porch. What I found inside those documents was almost too unbelievable to process. Over the past 9 years, Gregory had approved over $200,000 in maintenance contracts, paid to a company called Hutchins Property Solutions. It took me less than 5 minutes of searching to discover that Hutchins Property Solutions was registered to Gregory's brother-in-law, a man who, according to public records, had no employees, no equipment, and operated out of a residential address 2 streets over from mine. Gregory had been funneling HOA dues into his own family's pocket for nearly a decade, dressing it up as legitimate landscaping and maintenance work that, according to neighbors I spoke with, never actually happened. I brought everything to Rebecca, who confirmed what I already suspected. This wasn't just unethical. It was potential embezzlement, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty, all serious enough to warrant a criminal investigation. But there was more. Buried in the meeting minutes from 18 months earlier was a vote. One Gregory had pushed through during a sparsely attended summer meeting, granting himself unilateral authority to approve community safety modifications without board consensus. This was the loophole he'd used to authorize the concrete barrier on my driveway, all without a single other board member's signature. Rebecca and I decided the most powerful move wasn't a quiet lawsuit, it was transparency. We requested a special emergency meeting of all Brookhaven Estates homeowners, citing the fire code citation as grounds for community-wide concern. Gregory couldn't legally refuse. The meeting was set for the following Thursday evening at the community clubhouse, and word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. People who had quietly resented Gregory's tyrannical rule for years suddenly had a reason to show up. The night of the meeting, the clubhouse was packed wall to wall. More residents than I had ever seen at any HOA function. Gregory sat at the head table, flanked by 2 board members who looked increasingly uncomfortable as the evening progressed. I stood at the podium with Rebecca beside me, laying out everything: the fabricated easement, the illegal driveway barrier, the fire code violation, and finally, the financial documents revealing Gregory's secret payments to his brother-in-law's shell company. Gasps rippled through the room. An elderly man near the back, a retired accountant named Walter Higgins, stood up and shouted, "I knew something was wrong with those landscaping invoices. The numbers never made sense." Gregory tried to regain control, insisting the documents were taken out of context. But his voice wavered, and sweat visibly beaded on his forehead under the fluorescent lights. Then Patricia from the county zoning office, who I had invited as a witness to confirm the fire code violation, stood and confirmed publicly that the HOA was facing mounting daily fines for the unresolved obstruction. The room erupted into furious questions, demands for Gregory's resignation, and threats of a class action lawsuit over years of misappropriated dues. It was complete chaos, the kind of public unraveling that I knew, deep down, Gregory Hutchins thoroughly deserved. But just as the meeting reached its boiling point, something happened that no one, not me, not Rebecca, not even Gregory himself, could have predicted. The clubhouse doors swung open, and 2 uniformed sheriff's deputies walked in, asking specifically for Gregory Hutchins by name. The room fell into stunned silence. One of the deputies pulled out a folded document and began reading aloud. A court order, apparently filed earlier that week, completely unrelated to my driveway dispute, but connected to something far more serious involving Hutchins Property Solutions and a separate, ongoing investigation that none of us in that room had any idea was already underway. The deputies asked Gregory to step outside with them, and the entire clubhouse spilled out onto the lawn to watch, phones raised, murmurs rippling through the crowd like electricity. It turned out that Hutchins Property Solutions wasn't just defrauding our HOA. Gregory's brother-in-law had been running the exact same scheme across 3 other homeowners associations in the county, collectively siphoning off nearly $1 million over the better part of a decade. One of those HOAs had already filed a formal complaint with the district attorney's office 2 months earlier, and our public meeting, with its detailed financial evidence, had handed investigators exactly the corroborating proof they needed to escalate the case. Gregory wasn't arrested that night, but he was served with a subpoena, and the deputies made it unmistakably clear that criminal charges were very likely on the horizon. In the weeks that followed, the Brookhaven Estates HOA descended into a kind of beautiful chaos. An emergency election was called, and Gregory was formally removed from the board by a unanimous vote, something that hadn't happened in the community's entire 15-year history. The concrete barrier blocking my driveway was torn out within 48 hours, the county fines forcing the new interim board to act immediately or risk further financial penalty. Workers ripped out the slab while neighbors actually applauded from their porches, some even bringing lemonade and snacks like it was a community celebration rather than a legal correction. Sarah stood beside me, 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant, tears streaming down her face as the last piece of concrete was hauled away, our driveway finally clear and accessible again. But the story didn't end there. Walter Higgins, the retired accountant who had spoken up at the meeting, organized a homeowner-led financial audit committee, working alongside Rebecca to recover funds for residents who had been quietly overcharged in special assessments tied to Gregory's fake maintenance contracts. Within 3 months, Brookhaven Estates homeowners collectively recovered nearly $80,000 in refunded dues, money that Gregory had funneled away under the guise of landscaping that never actually existed. The new HOA board, led by Walter himself, implemented strict transparency rules, public access to all financial records, recorded board meetings, and a requirement that any structural modification affecting a homeowner's property required written, signed consent. Gregory eventually pleaded guilty to multiple counts of embezzlement and fraud across the 4 homeowners associations he and his brother-in-law had targeted, avoiding a lengthy trial but receiving a sentence that included restitution payments and several years of probation. He moved out of Brookhaven Estates within 6 months, his pristine reputation in tatters, his name now whispered through the neighborhood not with respect, but with quiet disgust. The man who once ruled the community with an iron clipboard and a smug little smile had been reduced to nothing more than a cautionary tale parents told their kids about the dangers of unchecked power. As for me, our daughter Lily was born 3 weeks after that chaotic community meeting, healthy and loud, arriving into a household that finally felt like it belonged to us again. Sarah and I often sit on our porch now, watching Emma and Jake play in the driveway that Gregory once tried to seal away from us forever. A driveway that ultimately became the very thing that exposed years of corruption hiding beneath Brookhaven Estates' perfectly manicured surface. I think about that anonymous warning text sometimes. People who dig too deep into Gregory's business have regretted it, and I can't help but feel a quiet, satisfied pride knowing that digging deeper was exactly what finally set our community free. To every homeowner out there who has ever felt powerless against an HOA board that seems to operate above the law, I want you to remember this. Rules exist to protect communities, not to serve the personal interests of whoever holds the gavel. Sometimes the very people who hide behind bylaws and community guidelines are the ones violating them most severely behind closed doors. Don't be afraid to ask questions, request records, and demand transparency, because sometimes the smallest act of resistance, refusing to accept an illegally blocked driveway, can unravel an entire empire built on lies.